go a little wider. Brings ball back for Marshall. The footwork. Benji Marshall. Now the speed. The footwork again. Away from Peachy. Passes without looking. Away for Richards. Back to Fitzhenry. That is as good as you will see.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gents, to the round 23 edition of the SUPERCOACH Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Dan. After a terrible week, I am out of my head-to-head, so I don't care anymore. I'm only really here for the eye candy. So they've got to have some kind of eye candy here. Speaking of eye candy, our special guest this week has eyes and loves candy. Adrianasaurus Rex, how you going?
Mate, I'm good. I am alive in a lot of my comps, and I'm a cash east player. I'm a head-to-head player who is trying to have his cake and eat it too, because I'm doing pretty well in the overall as well. I've cracked into the top two. I'm in 180 or something, I think, and I'm still alive in 7 head-to-heads. So it's all happening for me. But I get your feeling when your season's sort of over, and in the last couple of weeks, you're just like, I can't even get into it anymore if you're not in any.
Yeah, I've got trades left and everything, and there's no bloody point in using them. So, but to be honest, though, I had such a really terrible year, and I really started focusing on my head-to-head way too late. But I managed to get in. I had no right to be in the finals. I was, like I said, I was ranked 39 to 40,000 most of the year, and I came back and had to win 7 in a row to make the finals, which I did. And yeah, but I had no right to be there in the first place, so I can't really get too upset. I made it further than what I thought I was going to make. So,
yep, you take what you can.
That's it, mate. That's it. I'm not doing the nudie run, so that's always good. So, all right. So, as usual, we have Glenn, our official Tragics dance captain. Welcome back, Glenn. How'd you go last week?
I 1,188. It was sort of par. I had a par week, I guess you could call it. I managed to go up about 300 places, but when you're at 8K, it doesn't really matter much, does it? I am actually in a couple of head-to-head finals. Don't ask me how. I've also been knocked out of any ones that really matter to me, the ones that are actually good players.
So, lucky no one's watching this, mate. So the ones that you are playing against aren't going to take this offensive or anything. So.
My son's coach Ben's out there. I'll see you next week in the final, mate.
Alrighty, so I got 11.23 last week. Every decision I made pretty much was based on what my opponent was doing, and I've been getting along pretty nicely with all my pods. But unfortunately, all my good pods that I had, he had the same pods. So I was like the Cam Murrays that he had Cody Walker, all these little pods that were doing really well, and I looked at my non-common players, and he just had much. I knew as soon as I saw his team, I'm not going to win this. It was just a quality team he had. So, but I did pretty well considering where I was. So, enough talking about me. Let's get into the trade-ins and trade-outs of the weeks and market watch. So, we'll start with you, Adis. First, most traded-in player this week, mate, is Cam Murray. I like this one. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do like it. I think people, he is, the draw doesn't matter to him, does it? And he's been hitting his straps. When I was looking at him a few weeks back, sort of right out of Origin, because he, come straight off an injury, he was doing 50s and 60s, and I was like, he will start up again, come, the end of the year and finals, and he's been fantastic. I think people are moving on some of the dead weight, or they're getting those final team plays, and I think he'll do well every week now till the end, and I think it's a good trade.
Yeah, and I think with the Penrith game this week, they're a tough team, but they're also a depleted team at the moment as well. And having that tough, that's the kind of perfect storm for Murray. Having that tough team that has some weaknesses, because Murray's great at exposing those weaknesses in the middle. So I think Murray's in for another big score this week as well. So I really like. I've got him in my team, and I've had him for the last 3 weeks now, and he's been killing it for me every week. So I'm bloody happy with him. All right, I'll move on to number 2, Glenn. Joseph Sawali, number 2 traded this week, mate. Good matchup this week, so I like it.
Yeah, I love it, mate. I mean, it's a short-term fix. So, I mean, the 2 matchups after from memory are Penrith and the Storm, so they've got a pretty hard run after that. But, I mean, I got a few bets on this week on Sawali. I'm actually pretty dirty on Sawali. A couple of rounds ago, I swapped out Sawali instead of Talakai, and every round I'm like, what are you doing? I mean, this was the matchup that I had Talakai for. This was the matchup this week. And, and that didn't work. But yeah, it's a good trade, guys. I think anything from the Roosters like Manu, Tupou, or Suwali are all really nice trades.
Yeah, I think if you're for a head-to-head player especially, I really like the Suwali trade because even though they have a bad run after this game, some people have that. It's a do or die match this week. So having this pod that'll be in your team hopefully and get a good score for you might be the actually play that wins the game for you. So
yeah, if you're up against someone who's got Suwali this week, you'll be nervous because it's a matchup where you could see him getting multiple tries.
Yeah,
definitely. Move on to number 3, most traded in. Sure, this will change, but Isaac Thompson for the Rabbitohs, ADOS. He's not even playing this week.
Yeah, it's a bit perplexing to me. I think maybe people made the trade before, seeing that he was out. You could enough now, technically, if people are doing those Cam Murray type moves. I just don't know if he's the one you'd use, really. You could get a player that's got a bit more movability. So it's a bit of an odd one for me.
Yeah, the only reason I can think this could be a decent, the only reason people are doing this probably is because nothing out, I don't think is the way to go this year. We need to have some depth. And if he does play, he'll be playing a full game or he's not playing at all as well. So he could be there if, say, Graham goes down or whatever again when he comes back and he's another replacement there for him. So could be an option, but I don't like it at all. I'm just trying to think of a positive thing here for that trade, but I don't see it at all.
And just something Ado said, which I think is important, is if you are going to nuff, look for a duel. Look for somebody that you can move up and down because, at this time of the year, having that flexibility is so vital.
Yeah, has someone like that, Shannon Harris from the Panthers, perfect non-playing nuff that's dual centre wing second row. So, all right, number 4, we'll move on to you, Glenn. Ruben Cotter, number 4 most traded in this week, mate.
Yeah, I like it. Look, at half time, I think he was on 50 and it was all in base. You can't debate that, can you? The guy's a machine.
What did he end up on? Was it 66 he ended up on?
Yeah, well, that's right. That'll happen. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But, the matchup's nice for him against the Warriors. The Warriors have a nice pack in the middle, and they did turn up last week, but I still think the Cowboys will have the Warriors number, and, anyone in that side could get points. Robson's very good the way he moves up the middle, which could put Cotter in, so.
Yeah, I like it. I think I'm actually looking to bring in Cotter this week because I got McInnes as well still. So having that interchangeability is really handy for me. So
nice.
All right, number 5, most traded in player this week, ADOS Tarpany. Thoughts on that one, mate?
Yeah, it's a weird one for me. I've got people who are sort of saying, I don't even feel confident playing Tapiti and I'm an owner because he's the last game of the week. If you make the move, let's say you've got to trade out a player who plays in one of the earlier games and you're trading him to Tapiti, you'd be mighty miffed if he misses being the last game of the round. And I don't know if he's going to be lightly diminished. The ribs, we've seen other players come back from it and they can be copper hit 15 minutes in. And then, if you get that hit in that spot, they're off for the rest of the game. And I think that's why owners are a bit nervous about not locking in a safe 60 earlier in the round because one hit and Tuppeny could be down, for the rest of the game. So I wouldn't be trading him. I know that in the front row, there's not a lot of options, but to me, I'd be, if I've got a duel, I'm going to get him out and get a Cam Murray or a Sean Lane instead. I think they offer more as an option now than Tuppeny under the injury cloud and particularly being the last game.
Yeah, and honestly, if you had, say, like a Max King who's a duel as well, you could always interchange them up top. And I'd play Max King this week, depending on what happens, obviously, with the Bulldogs line up at the moment with Thompson coming back. So, but yeah, I just think it's definitely, if you're going to have 3 categories, buy, hold, sell, he's a hold. I don't think he's a buy at all.
And you definitely want to be looking at ceiling. And at least Lane and Murray offer you that ceiling. I don't believe Tarpany does.
No. All righty. Number 6 most traded in, Glenn. Alex Johnson, big ceiling up against the Panthers. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I actually don't like it. Look, I get it. They play to the left so often and they're so strong on that side. And the chances are he probably will cross for a try. But even with a try, he probably, doesn't go much over 60 or 70. I just think that's better this round, with your Suwalis, Manus, Tupous and co. I'd be looking there. Just my opinion.
You got like Val Holmes as well with a good matchup this week, similar price.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time for AJ, and he has been amazing. Like, you look at his last 5 scores. Yeah, there was a 55 and a 60 in there. The rest is 80s, 90s, because he goes over for multiple tries. I can't see multiple tries. It's not to say that it won't happen, but the more likelihood up against a good defensive unit like the Panthers, even though they've got a few players out, could be a try. And if that's the case, he'll be 50. And they've got a hard draw home. So I think you go a Suwali, if you were looking for someone for this week who's got hard games afterwards. He's kind of got at least one good game in there for multiple tries. And Val has a ripping matchup this week, and you could even think of him as a VC option. So I think there's better options.
Yeah, 100%.
100% agree. All right, move on to number 7, most traded in player. Adrian, so David Fafita, frustrating guy to watch.
Oh, mate, I'm a Dave Fafita owner, and I reckon it's absolute bloody madness to bring him in. Last week he did a vintage David Fafita run, yes, and he finished 70s. There's no hundreds in Dave this year. I mean, this is not the worst matchup by any stretch, and he could ton up, but trust you ask any, if you're thinking of trading in David Fafita, ask any person you know who plays Supercoach who owns Fafita whether they think it's a good idea. He's just doesn't get the ball. He runs as a decoy. The try on the weekend, he had to do it from the halfway and do it all himself. But there's just no ball. They've got no play that includes Fafita, unfortunately. So it was a lucky I mean, it won me a $200 cashie last week. I was losing badly until Dave went on that run, and when he scored it, I went up by 40, and I was like, I've got you, Bron. And I was happy that it happened, but he's too unpredictable, and what you can predict is that he's not going to get enough ball.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And the fact that if he doesn't get that one try that he got last week, he's on 30 points, 35 points.
Yeah, and you look at his base. Yeah, you look at his base in that game. If you don't get a try, you are in dire straits. Yeah. So I can't get around a Dave Fafita trade in this week.
Yeah, I agree too. Especially with their dire straits of trades at the moment. I've got 2 left, but that's a lot. A lot of people haven't got any at all, and the people who've got very little trades are bringing in this risky person to bring in. So I don't know. It's scary.
Yeah, someone like Murray is he gets you 70, and if he gets a try, it's 100.
Yeah,
you want one of those ones. Or Lane, who's getting 70s every game and has a potential. It's not a bad matchup for the Eels this week either, that he could jag a try. You just want somebody who, if they don't score a try, they're still 60, 70, not 30, 40. And that's what Fafita is.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it. All right, number 8, most traded in player this week, Glenn. Ruben Garrick. He's on a bit of a roll at the moment. He's pretty safe.
Yeah, his numbers are safe, but I don't like what I saw from Manly last week, and I don't see that improving. But look, I wouldn't talk someone out of Garrick. He does run a lot. I mean, I'd rather buy a Garrick than I would a Fafita, I guess, if I was going to do it based on his goal kicking. It's his plus power that so I don't hate that trade.
Yeah. He's one of the elite top 4 at least in the centre wing position. I think he's the same kind of consideration as Murray. People are finalising their team, get the best wingers in.
But I would say to them, if you don't own Holmes, Suwali, or even Tupou, I'd look. That's where I'd personally be looking. I personally Holmes. I think the matchups are good. He gets good delivery, and he's a goal kicker as well. But I don't hate Garrick. I own Garrick, so.
I own him too, but would you buy him ahead of a Manu or a Val this week? Probably not. No. I'd probably buy him ahead of Tupou or someone like that. He gets involved, but there are worrying times for Manly. They were awful last week. Doesn't mean they can't bounce back. That's and right. I'll still play Garrick happily. But again, if you want to win your head-to-head this week, I think you'd be better off with a Suwali, a Val, or a Manu if you don't own.
Yeah.
All right. Number 9, most traded in player this week, Adrian. Munster. No arguments here.
Absolutely not. I can't believe that people don't own Munster. I think it's a bit of ducks and drakes from Bellyache that he's been named at 6. I think with Hughes back, it's even more likely that Munster will be playing fullback. So if Munster plays fullback and you don't have him, get him in because he is an absolute weapon at fullback.
Yep. Definitely. I think he wants it too. He's been calling out to play there, so looking good.
Well, get him in then, lads.
That's it.
Right.
All right. Final on the list, number 10, most traded in player this week. And I think it's just due to how much he's worth, and that's Joey Manu, Glenn.
Yeah, well, no one's going to talk out of Manu, especially versus the Tigers. I'm a Tigers fan, and let me tell you that I've got Manu in a multi this week, and I've got Suwali in a multi this week because I don't own either. I sold Suwali, as I told you, and to lessen the pain, I can at least get a bit of coin out of it.
Yeah.
He's due too. If you could say that about Manu getting 50s, he's due for a big one, I think. And I mean, who is he up against? He's up against what's his name? Who's been filling in for?
Oh,
You know what, I
Kapoa.
could tell you everything about the Tigers, and this is one season where I've actually given up caring, but I'll have a look for you. So they've got Naden, Tahoe, Kapoa. So they're up against Naden and Kapoa, right?
Yeah, I think Manu could be the captain this week.
Sorry, they're up
You could
against,
go Teddy, but Manu is a good trade in for this week.
yeah, Mamalo it'd be and Toa. Sorry, I've got the wrong side. Yeah, but having said that, Manu comes on at both sides, and the Tigers leak horribly on the right side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. All right, that's it for the trade into the week. Let's start with the trade outs. There's rumours that apparently, I'm just hearing now that May's playing. Number one most traded out is Tyler May. If he's playing, would you be trading him out, Glenn?
No, I wouldn't, and that's not because of this matchup. It's because of the next one versus the Warriors. I think that, I mean, even if you win your head-to-head this week, you got the final next week, and versus the Warriors, you definitely want to own Tyrone May.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he hasn't been going great. Let's be honest. He's been shit, and I haven't played him in ages. But next week I will play him in the final of your head-to-heads. If you say sell him this week and you make it to your head-to-head finals and you're up against someone who has May, he could be on for 3 tries against the Warriors, who have packed up and done for the season. They're going to have 2 games on the road, so they're away to the Penrith Panthers next week. I think May's a good play. And I don't think we all have the luxury of trades to be trading out players who are going to be playing the Warriors next week. Surely you've got another. I'd sell Talakai before I'd sell May.
Yeah.
Although Talakai's got a pretty nice matchup if he's back next week and in around 25 as well. But sell someone else. I'd sell Max King even. If Thompson comes back into that team, maybe the minutes start to go down to 40. Just keep yourself thinking about your head-to-head finals and the matchups for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's it.
Think ahead. Yeah.
All right, go to you, Adrian. Number 2 most traded out this week is Talakai. You mentioned earlier. He's extremely frustrating at the moment. He's all these good matchups and just not really coming through. Is it the Sharks or is it him?
Well, it's the Sharks and him a bit. He's been injured. They've come out. He had a shoulder right around from Origin. So he's been hampered, I think, which means we haven't seen the best that he's capable of. His work rate wise, but they don't get the ball out to him, and you can see that on that edge with Mulatalo as well. They're having to go look for their work themselves because the ball's not getting out to them. I think that William Kennedy's more of a loss than people realize because Ed Moylan obviously as well for getting the ball out. I think I can play Mulatalo this week because I think with Moylan in the team, there could be a cutout to, Mulatalo on the wing. And Talakai, the next 2 matchups are okay. I've only got 1 trade left, so I'm not selling May and I'm not selling Talakai, but you sell away if it means you can get it a Suwali this week because the price is close enough.
Yeah.
You sell Talakai this week and you bring in Suwali, you're probably going to get 100 from Suwali this week. And I don't mind him as an expendable player.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. All right, number 3 most traded out this week, another winger with a decent ceiling, and that's Karaz. Glenn.
Well, I mean, most of us will be pretty stacked at centre wing now, so people are probably doing that to, bring in a gun. So I don't hate that at all. But, he's made his money, he's done his job, Yeah, it's time to move him on.
That's it. I don't mind his matchup this week as well. He will seem to leak a little bit on the edges there as well, and I think he does a good job this week. But like you said, if you're finalising your team and you want to get rid of him, it's fine by me. All right, number 4 most traded out this week is Isaac Targo. I think very similar to Taylor May, but I think he's a bit more consistent than May, obviously.
Yeah, I've never got around the Targo sell. I held him when everyone was selling, earlier in the year. And everybody's sort of, I think, panicking because of last week's score. Yes, it is a bit of a downer with no Luai and Cleary in the team. But you look at his last four out of his 5 scores, they're exquisite. They're not just good, they're great. And I think more than May, he will go because he's a second row forward center. He'll go and take some runs and he busts the line a little bit. And look, if Kickout's playing, they're going to go to that left edge. So it's not the worst. It's not the worst for To'o this week because I think he'll be left, won't he? No, is May going to be back? So maybe To'o goes back to the right.
Yeah.
Interesting. But I really think next week there could be some joy for Targo, who's been scoring well. 4 out of his last 5. He's been in recent decent form.
And you have
we got pretty badly.
Sorry, Dan.
No, you go, Glenn.
Firstly, last week they played the Melbourne Storm, and if you did watch that game, you could have seen twice. Targo actually could have crossed had the ball just travelled. I mean, at one particular time, O'Sullivan could have literally let the ball go, and Targo had clear air. And I definitely would be selling Targo, and this durability again, as Ardo pointed out, and the Warriors next week. Just don't do it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, look, 51 was a good score in the centers last week. Is that what he got? That was a pretty good score for the centers. So I just think, if you can, hold him.
Yeah. Well, 16-0. So no tries for the Penrith Panthers. Yeah, he still gets 51 points. I take that every day of the week with no tries.
Yeah.
All right, number 5 most traded out player this week. Go to you, Glenn. Lolo.
Yeah, look, I understand. Like, have they named the 4 forward bench again? The Cows. Give me half a second here.
Well, the Hammer's on the bench now because Felt's back. So it's
a few extra minutes. So I mean, look, people are probably looking at his minutes and the rotation. Cotter back does hurt Lolo. So I hate it. I imagine those selling Lolo going to Tarpany, but I personally wouldn't be making that trade. I'd be looking elsewhere where you can get a ceiling. Like Ada said a minute ago, or both of you said, if you can get a Murray or a Lane, it's a much better option. I don't like that trade really.
Yeah.
Unless
I think it's an unnecessary trade in my opinion.
Yeah, look, you saw his meters last week. The line speed of the Chooks. That's why I'm starting to warm to the Chooks for this finals tilt. They were exceptional, and Lodge is really they've got a pack now and a half. They really monstered him last week, and obviously because of the news, they were obviously flat. So he's still got his 50 minutes. If he gets those minutes this week, I really think in that matchup he's even a chance of busting through a few tackles. And if you've got other better moves to move, like Lolo will probably score you 50, 60 this week. And I think Tuppeny might score you 60, 70. So it's for 10 points, or you grab yourself a ceiling Val, or you grab a Suali. Do something that could get you 100. So I got my front row set up, and Lolo is my second front rower, and Pole is my bench cover. So I play Lolo every week because I'm not making any trades in front row, and I stopped making trades in front row like round 7 or whatever. So I think it's a risk if you go to Tuppeny this week. And who else would they go? Haas, maybe? I don't get it.
My opinion as well is it's less risky. So if you have, say, Lolo has a bad day, a bad week, he doesn't hurt you as much as if, say, Holmes has a bad week. So you can hold on to Lolo and it's not going to hurt you because his bad is, 40, 45? That's not that bad. If Holmes has a bad day, he gets you 20, 15.
Yeah.
So,
and he does have a ceiling with that matchup coming up. There could be a chance for a try assist or even a try with Lolo. So,
this is the reason why I don't like to have any decent pods or any pods in the front row, because it doesn't really – the risk isn't really much. There's not much risk and there's not much reward really. Yeah. So that's why, I just don't like the pot up in the front row. I think the pot up spot is the halves and the centre wing.
Yeah.
All right, number 6 most traded in, Adrian. DCE. He's killing me.
Mate, he's been dog shit. I mean, he's been so bad. The thing I would say to people is I'm not trading any ceiling players, and that's probably been my tone of the night. I'm not going to trade ceiling players, and DCE's got tons this year. You are pissed off that he's had, what is it, 4 in a row now in like the 30.
Yeah.
He's been very, very bad. Manly's, I think there's some real issues there. They've lost Gerbo now as well, who I think is very important to them defensively, and probably even just for the heart and soul part of the team. But surely DCE backs up against the wall. He's capable of a ton in these last 3 rounds. I quite liked their draw. I think they'll get probably spanked this week by the Sharks, and I don't know if I'd play him, but I don't mind, playing him again in another game in the last 2 games, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I've got him in my team, and I've got my backup hooker is Blake Brayley, and I'm going to play Blake Brayley over DCE this week, and that way I can hold DCE for another better matchup next week.
Yeah, have you played him all the other weeks though? Like, because you'd be if he goes
every week.
Yeah. I bet Murphy's Law says that he's going to go out and ton up this week if you sit him.
That's what I reckon too.
Yeah, but I in my head-to-head final last week, which I got knocked out of, I had to do something different and crazy to try to get the win, and I captained DCE this week. So in the end, 11-25 with a DCE captain. And when you think about it, the score wasn't that bad. It's just a bad captain choice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he just, like the last couple of weeks, his runs are way down, which he's done a little bit more of. And I actually thought Foran looked better, looked the more dominant half, in the last couple of weeks. So, there are worrying signs, but DCE is a champion. I'm not the biggest DCE fan, but he can pull out an absolute clinic, when he wants to. And that showed this year with some tons. One of the higher ton getting halves out there, next to Hines and that. So I think you just keep him. I'd probably sit him this week because I think they're going to get spanked. They're at home though, aren't they, the Seagulls? So if you had to, you could do worse things than play him, I think.
Yeah. All righty, we'll move on to number 7. This one is a bit strange. I didn't know he was owned that highly, but Jason Saab from Manly, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, if you owned him and I don't understand the reasoning behind it, but yeah, well, trade him out. I mean, he's gone, he's broken. There's not much more to say.
Yeah, that's it.
I just wanted to say 2 things quickly. One on Manly, 5 completions from 17 in the second half. That is incredibly the worst football I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a Manly friend. He's like, I reckon that's the worst I've seen in a decade. Just effort-wise, like they've been pumped in games, but just the effort.
Yeah.
The effort was down, so he's worried personally.
They spent their more training or rehearsing the gang signs rather than actual set plays.
Yeah.
All righty, number 8. I go to you, Ados. Ezra Mann, number 8, mate, traded out this week.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Ezra's been pretty good. I think Melbourne are probably going to make a statement. They love going up to Suncorp. So, I mean, I don't think you play him this week, maybe. I've seen him on a lot of lists as a sit for this week. If you've got him in your 5'8", and we see Munster on the list. So, people are probably upgrading to one of the Drinkwater or a Munster. Go for your life. Man's done his job. He's done his job, and he's been a very good cheapie for us this year.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Glenn, number 9 on the list. Another guy that's been quite disappointing the last few weeks. That's Olakau'atu.
Yeah, I still wouldn't be trading him out. I mean, he could have got a decent score last week had he had a brain in his head. I mean, they knew it was a knock-on. Why continue? Sometimes I just wonder the common sense of players in rugby league. If I see that there's a knock-on and I'm not going to continue on and get the try. I'm going to go right to the line if I have to stop and play the ball because then they can't go back. It was always not going to be a try. But, I personally...
I don't blame Ola for that. He wouldn't have known. Olakau'atu wouldn't have known that. He was too far away. It was, I think it was Foran that ran out and passed it out that way.
Yeah, is that right? Yeah. Well,
he was close to being a good score last week, and he's had, I think, two in a row or 3 in a row that haven't been great. One was an injury game. Then there was the after jersey thing, which wasn't great, and then last week was 3 in a row. So hopefully he bounces back. He's been very good this year. He's been a very pleasant own. I just hope it. I'm going to play him this week. Still, I'm going to play him.
Because I traded him out a while back, just to for a head-to-head matchup, and then I brought him back in last week just to get that crappy score. So When he went over and it was disallowed, I was so angry. So, yeah. All right, and last, number 10, most traded out, Adrian. I'm probably the only person that I thought had this guy still on my team. That's Tuolangi from the Tigers.
Well, Tuolagi, he's made the bloke goes down more injured. He goes down as much as Ponga does, in a game, I reckon. Or Dugan. He's like the new Dugan, in my opinion. But look, I looked at him a little while ago and he pulled out some pretty okay scores. I think that might have been the reason why people kept a hold of him, but you're not going to play him anymore. I think the Tigers were awful last week. I mean, losing Hastings, I think, hasn't been good for him, has it?
What he does is with the ball, he touches the ball so much, he controls the game so well. They're just out of sorts now without him.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got no problem with it.
Yeah. Well, I held him the whole time because I just had more important things to trade out. And then I looked at his score the week before and I was like, you got 60 points. That's all right. I might play him this week. And then I got 80 points. And I'm like, I'm actually liking this. And I was going to play him last week. And then I was like, no, I'll change my mind. I did, luckily, because he got 18 points last week. So...
Yeah, the 18 points wasn't good last week, but he sort of got into in a couple of games there while they were up and about him. He seemed to be plugged in and onto the game. He's got so much potential.
Yeah.
But he just goes down injured all the time, or he's got a HIA, or he has a lazy game. But he's certainly got all the makings of a weapon, I reckon, for fan
around.
Someone
to keep an eye on, I reckon, for next year. I reckon someone to keep an eye on.
Yeah. He frustrated me. Was he there last year or was it earlier this year? He's frustrated me as an owner, and I think I moved him on. I can't remember when it was, but
it
frustrated the living shite out of me.
Yeah, he kept going down. I had him at the start of the year too, and he had 3 injuries in a row.
He played 40 minutes every game.
Yeah,
he played 40 minutes every game.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
All right, that wraps up the market watch for now. So our next topic we're going to talk about is just the matchups this week. So I'm just going to go through each matchup quickly, and we'll have a look at the decent players that you might play or not in these matchups. So we'll start with the first game, and I'll start with you, Glenn. Panthers versus the Rabbitohs. Is there anyone here that you could be think would be in for a good game?
Yeah, well, I think Latrell will be in for a good game. He's just been on fire this season. I still think that Targo could have a good matchup too. And but yeah, look, they're two. This could be a base stat game. I don't see Penrith do defend well, even though they played a very strong Storm last week. I mean, I'm playing Targo. I don't know if I'll play May, and Latrell would be a definite play. And I think Cody Walker might be a sit. But I mean, you saw what he done last week. So, he has that ceiling. So it's hard to sit a player that can offer you a ceiling like Cody. But I think this could be a game that I might consider if I owned as a rest.
Yeah. I think it might be a rest.
Sorry?
I was going to say it feels like a resting Cody game.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I do like Cam Murray in this game as well. We always talked about him, and I think he's in for a cracker of a game. I reckon he tons up this game. So
yeah, if you have Yo or Murray or Koloamatangi, I'd definitely be playing those 3 in this matchup.
Yep. Yeah. I'd be keen on Cookie you play him every week, but I think he'll have a ripping game. He's up against Appy, who took minutes off him in Origin. Cook's been good this year. Would you sit someone like Tass this week if you had him? He got a really good score last week, and I think there might be a temptation to play him, but I think maybe not this week.
Yeah, Tass is a probably sit. I'd definitely be playing Appy and Cook. I've owned Cook from the beginning of the season, and I've not let him go all year. He's been one of my mainstays. But yeah, I agree with you. Tass could be a sit. I'm actually in that position between Tass or May, which one of those two I play.
Would you be a little down on top? Or now that May's playing, he'll obviously go back with Targo on the left and kick our side. It's like crickets over on the right side.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about Toho is like his work rate, and he does come in and look for work. But I mean, against the Bunnies, I see this as a very evenly matched side. I think the tip of the scale is Latrell. I think that the Panthers are struggling without Cleary and Luai for direction. But it wouldn't surprise me if either one to win. But I wouldn't expect by a big score. If anyone wins by a bigger score, it'd be South. I don't see Panthers to win.
Yeah, I'm tipping Rabbitohs this week, I think. Especially with Fisher Harris out. as well. I think that's a big loss for us in the middle there. And Rabbitohs are a smart team, especially with that their forward pack. They've got a smart leader in there, and I reckon they're going to exploit the crap out of that.
Yeah.
It just feels like, I mean, you saw games where good teams, I mean, the Melbourne, I think in Penrith, I was like, they absolutely stunned, they cancelled each other out. With this game, I think you could probably, you're going to have to, because we all own, you know, a few Panthers and probably a Rabbitoh or something, you're going to have to play some of them. And like in the case of Murray and Cook, I think you're fine. And Kaloa Matangi, you probably think about some of these outside backs. I think you'd still play AJ if you're an owner, because you always play him. Because every time there's points scored for South, he's on the end of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, we don't agree with him for a buy, but I'd still probably play him.
Yep.
Coming back from injury, I don't know. I'd be more tempted now to play May if I was picking between May and To'o, because To'o on that right, you know, worries me.
Yeah,
And you'll
Tass
find
will be
as well,
on the
you'll
left.
find that Stephen Crichton on that right edge defensively will often try to get those intercepts. He tries to do that show pony kind of thing where he tries to do that game-changing intercepts. So if he runs in hard, they'll do a nice little cut-up pass to Alex Johnson. And I reckon there could be a few, probably not a few. I reckon at least one try there to Alex Johnson this week.
Can I just say, if you own Crichton this week, I probably would wait up. Let me get the sides right. Campbell Graham's back this week, who is actually a pretty good defender. He'll be playing on the right side, and Crichton plays on the right side, so he'll be so I've got that all out of whack.
Yeah, so
he'll be
Campbell Graham will be defending.
Yeah,
he'll be
Tass.
defending Targo and May. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, so that makes me reconsider my May option.
Yeah, in saying that, I've seen Lomax put Campbell Graham to shame. So
Yeah,
he's a
struggles
good
with
defender, but he knows how to get exploited quite easily as well.
He struggles with the quicker players. He's more of a strength player. Like the guys that'll run hard straight at him, he'll defend very well. But the players that are a bit chippy around the feet, he does tend to struggle a little bit with. That's correct. Yeah.
And he probably will come in to put in some help for kick out, you know, most likely. So it could be, they could exploit him down there. And he's probably short of a gallop as well. So I'm probably leaning, if I've got to play, I've got Targo, May, and To'o. So I'll probably be picking two of them out of those three to play. And I'm just because I've got to.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys, we'll move on to game 2, and that's Cowboys versus the Warriors. I like a lot of Cowboys players. I'll go to you, Glenn. I think I went to ADOS last time.
No, you went to me.
Okay, I'll go to you, ADOS then, which are players. Obviously, there's a few good options there.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, you've got your usual suspects in Val and Drinkwater. I think this is a good VCable game as well. They're back at home. You know, obviously, a lot of people are probably worried about Lolo after last week with the minutes and stuff, but I think you could probably safely play him. Cotter's a weapon. You keep playing him. Robson, you know, he's been a weapon. I've got a Robson Grant combo in hooker, and I love Robson. He's been. I wanted to sell him, you know, earlier in the year, but he's been so good. I've kept him. Who else do people own? I've seen some people bringing in Tuolagi on the wing.
Yeah.
As a possibility for a big score this week.
Yeah, he's definitely a decent pot option this week for sure. That's for sure. He's had a pretty good year. So just quietly.
And I probably a bounce back. You think, you know, Nanai in this game, the Warriors, you know, they haven't been offering up much, and they're not as good away at all.
No.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys' speed will trouble the Warriors, and I think that if you own any cows in this game, this is the game to play.
Yeah, they've got big forwards of the Warriors too, and having the likes of Cotter in there, he's going to tire them out. These big forwards are going to be tired, and they're going to exploit the crap out of that, I reckon.
Yeah.
So I like Cotter as a play too.
Yeah.
And the Cows really, after losing last week, they want to consolidate up at the top of that ladder, try to finish top 2. I think, are they still in second, or is
they're in second? And technically, they could make it to first. I mean, Penrith would have to lose every game, and they would have to win every game, and then they've got the for and against, which is a 90 difference at the moment. So mathematically, they can still actually make first. They are pretty consolidated, I believe, in second. But I mean, I think they need to win one more to be certain of that spot.
So they'll probably just go out and go hard, I reckon, this week to try to, you know, really set up the rest of the finals.
All righty, move on to game 3, and that's the Broncos versus the Storm. Glenn, any decent plays here you think I've made? It's a bit of a close matchup. I know the Storm probably got in ahead, but Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you own Jerome Hughes, Munster, or Grant, which I do, I own Grant and Munster, so I'll be playing both of those. I think Storm are a play. I think Broncos might be a sit. So if you've got an Ezra Mann, I've got Ezra Mann, so I'll be sitting him this week. And yeah, I think that's probably it. I don't see many owning much outside of that, possibly a Cobbo or a Coach.
Yeah. Would you play Cobbo?
I wouldn't versus the Storm. I mean, the Storm are, I mean, I have a rule. I generally don't play centre wings versus Storm and the Panthers. The Storm, a couple of rounds ago, I would have versus Anderson and Seve and that kind of Laramia mix. But with with Xavier Coates back on one edge and Orphaluma on the other, they're defending much better. They were a good. I mean, if you can keep Penrith to 0 points, you're going to trouble most sides defensively.
Yeah. And like they got Cobbo on the right side, and the right side, the defensive side, left side for the Storm is usually much better. It's usually their right defensive side which normally struggles in the past, and they've been pretty good on the left. So I think Cobbo might. It's a tough one because he's a pretty expensive player. That's it.
I will say this though: the Broncos do have some very good matches against the Storm. They are a side when they get on a roll that can trouble a side.
I'm looking forward to that game.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I haven't been overly impressed with the Broncos, so they're going to have to step it up, I think, to go with Melbourne, with Munster in fullback and Hughes back in. I think Melbourne like going up there as well. So I certainly wouldn't play a Stags if I had him. I'd think about a Cobbo, and people have bought A-Ray, as well. You got to play him. Surely it's hard to sit money if you've got money on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to say this right now. My prediction is the Stags actually does really well, just because he has a habit of he's like so competitive that he only goes really good against the good teams. He has bugger all against the weak sides. So I don't think he gets an half or anything. I reckon he gets about an 80. So
well, he got that last week and then downdated 30-odd points.
That's crazy.
I think he was 60.
Oh god.
Poor.
Alrighty, next game, Glenn. Eels versus the Dogs, mate. Is there anyone here that you have that you'd want to be playing or sitting?
I'll be playing. I've got Lane. I've got Brown. I'm actually considering a possible VC on Dylan Brown. I might not do that. I might do it in the next game. But I definitely would be playing my Eels, and I even would be playing the Dogs based on the Eels can leak. They really can. And so if you own a Burton, as you said earlier, Carraz, they could trouble them. Definitely I'd play Burton. Definitely I'd play Brown. Moses, if you own him, Lane and Sevo. I'd be playing all those players.
Yeah, definitely. All right, then we'll move on to the next game. That's Manly versus the Sharks. Manly looking pretty bad. If you've got a Sharks player, you're going to be playing him, Matos?
Yeah, I'll be playing my Sharks. I mean, that I've got available. Talakai is out, but I'm going to play Mulatalo. I think there could be some joy now with Moylan back in there. And look, he actually went looking for work last week, took some runs and stuff, and he was a bit busier, which, I think he was 57 or something, which was a little bit more, pleasing to see. It's just, if Manly have given up, I could see, Cronulla, because I think these teams that are sort of want to go for the title, they've got a few more rounds now to make their statement, like put a score on a team and for all of their attack to click and stuff. And the Sharks have really not put teams away in the second half. I've been very critical of them because they attack so selfishly. They attack like individuals. And in the first half, Nico was running the show. They looked slick. They looked great. And it all went to dog shit in the second half because everybody that got the ball wanted to score. And it all depends whether I think that this might be the game that they want to tighten it up. And I would be playing all of my Sharks because I think they're going to want to put in two halves performance in the run up to the finals. Because it's something I think coaches mentioned. We let the game slip away in the second half and we got silly and we started playing like individuals. So I think could be a statement game. And wow, Manly. Let's see what Manly turns up, because they've got a good, they've got a good record over the Sharks traditionally, particularly at home. But signs are not good for the Manly Sea.
Yeah, I'll be playing Kawatu and I'll be playing who's my Garrick. So and I'll be playing Hines and I'll be playing Mulatalo.
Yeah.
playing all
Would you
four.
play Cooler, who's out to the wing now, or would
No,
you
I
just sit
wouldn't.
him? Yeah,
Yeah,
they're a good defensive unit, aren't they? The Sharks.
yeah, they are.
Yeah, I got to look at playing either Cooler, Tass, or Toto, and pick one of those guys out. Oh, not Toto, sorry, May. So May, Tass, or Cooler. So I'm thinking about leaning towards May. I think,
Yeah.
which is a rough one, but yeah. And I think also the Sharks, like just to continue on what Adrian was saying, but defensively last year, they're going to, because Fitzgibbon, I like him as a coach, and defensively he's got a good mindset. He's going to be looking at how the finals last year and how the best teams last year in the finals were the defensive sides, and how all the games were like 4-8 and 6-4, and the teams that won were on the defense and also referees. And I'll be the first to admit that as a Panthers fan. But like they're going to be, and I reckon Fitzgibbon's going to be looking at the last year's finals and saying this is what we need to do to actually win the grand final. And I reckon they're going to be in with a good shot, like you said, and have a 2-half game this week. So
I think can I just elaborate on that if the Sharks want to be a good side, what you touched on earlier on is actually a fact, and the fact that they're a very selfish side in attack.
Yeah,
they need to really fix that. Their defense is actually really good. You're right, but in attack, they once they know they've got a side, they're very selfish side, and it's like I want to get the try, and if they just play to their edges, they would, and they really need to get that cohesion before they come into the finals to be any spot in the finals.
If you've got glamour edges, you got Ramian out there and Talakai and Mulatalo, Katoa before he was injured. You've got to get the ball to these guys. And if it's never making it out, I mean, look, short balls to Teague Wilton and stuff is all good, but you've got to, I reckon, the defensive mindset will get them far. I reckon they are a chance of finishing top 2 as well because they got a nice run home. But the thing is, if they come up against the Rabbitohs or the Roosters, if they come in hot against one of these teams that can get to 40, and you can't put 2 halves of attack together, they can defend all they want. But these teams will, whatever you score, they can score it too. They can outscore you because those attacking teams. I mean, you look at Souths, all their run to the GF last year, they can put on points, big points.
Yeah.
That left edge.
I don't care how good defensively you are. If you got the troll running at you, he does not want to get tackled. He won't get tackled. He's like that guy that will just. I don't care how good defensive you are. He will knock you on your ass if you need to, and he will get over and get a try. It's just how hungry he is at the time.
Just before we move on to the next game, I just want a little quick brag here. So in the Podmasters chat last round, you would have noticed somebody said to me, "So who's going to score in this game, Glenn?" And I said, Ikavalu. And like within 5 minutes, he crossed. And it was a very nice feeling because I had him in a multi as well.
Shout out to Sal.
Yes.
All right, move on to the next game now. And it's another team that's looking really good at the moment, the Roosters versus the Tigers. So I think who did I go last time? Was that you, Glenn? I go to Adels this time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a good game for your Roosters for sure. Look, I was listening to the playbook and Des Creek, former winner, was pointing out that the top score for the outside backs this year at the SCG, it was Manu with like 100 on the button. Teddy's top score is 90s. And, Manu's averaging 60 at the SCG and Teddy's around the same. So, they're not the slam dunk that we think, but I really think it's a different Roosters now than it was at the start of the year and any part of the year. I think the move of, Keary to the 6 and Walker to the 7 and Lodge coming over, I reckon it's completely changed them. They've leveled up. So I really think that Manu and Teddy look the goods this week for a captain's, you got to pick which one because I can see one of them going off and being the big daddy 150 or more. And the other one, I think there could be tons for a couple of them in this game. I like Sam Walker as a buy this week. I've still got Cleary in my halfback spot. I've got one trade left. And I was very tempted to get Sam Walker in this week for this matchup to just take advantage of this matchup. I don't know if I'll do it, but I like all of your Tupu could get some joy this week. I'd play him happily. I play every chook I've got.
Yeah.
Can I just say also, how you said they've leveled up with Lodge coming into the side? They've got TKO and Collins also due back into that side. I've tipped it, Roosters Panthers grand final, and we don't usually see anyone from outside the top 4 make it. If there's ever a year that it can happen, the Bunnies or the Roosters are on
Yeah.
fire, and I believe one of them could roll their way right up into there.
Yeah, they're the
definitely.
scary teams at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean, I hate the bloody Roosters because the Raiders, even if they win all their bloody games, we need the Roosters to lose some. Oh, maybe Parramatta or the Broncos could drop out as well. But I mean, I'm a Raiders fan, and I half don't want us to make the finals. I don't think we deserve it this year.
have a chance to get in
You'd be last year's Knights. Alrighty, move on to the second last game, and that's the Dragons versus the Titans. I'm not sure if there's too much love in here. I guess if you're going for Fafita, Glenn.
Yeah, the only two players I imagine people would have would be Lomax or Fafita. And possibly, I've seen a couple of sides with, what's his name, the fullback Ramsey. So, I mean, they'd all be players if you have. I mean, the Titans actually turned up last week. And, I mean, it's interesting. Ado shouted it out in the pod. This is something for you to brag about, mate, where, he was saying with Tino out that it'd actually be a better side. And I didn't agree with you at all. I thought the Manly were going to turn up and win that game and win it how. And I'll own it. I got it wrong and you got it right, Ado.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tino's a great player. He definitely is a great player. He's what you need in a club, one of these triers, but he's overplaying his hand, takes too many runs. And it's, the Titans, they were a team that could absolutely sizzle in attack. And, I think they looked better last week, personally. I think they could actually, maybe roll them this week. The Dragons are out of the running, I think, pretty much. So I can see another upset this week. I'll play Fafita. I've seen a few people tempted to bring in Hunt because it's a pretty nice run home for the Dragons. And I think Hunt is having a ripping year. He's on for a Dally M. I could see maybe a couple of big scores, even probably this week as well, for Hunt.
Mm-hmm. I don't hate that. Walker or Hunt, both good shouts for buys this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, agree. All right, Glenn, we're on to the last game, Glenn, and that's the Knights versus the Raiders. Not many players here. I guess there's Tarpanies. There's not much else really relevant.
Yeah, if I was a Tarpany owner, I'd be nervous. I mean, we do see that players that break ribs can struggle to come back from that. So as we pointed out earlier, it's probably not a buy. If you own, I'd probably play him. If you've got a really horrible AE bench and you can play someone earlier that you think's a play that's just as good, I'd probably do that. But I don't see much else that anyone would play from either of those sides. Barnett's out and injured. I don't imagine much people own any. I don't own anyone from the last two games, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the same. I got Barnett, but I just got him there because I didn't know I want to trade him to yet.
Yeah.
So
it's not going to be. It's not going to be I mean, hopefully the Raiders get the job done. It's all a bit dire straits over there in Newcastle. The Raiders can win it. But. So last week I know a few people own Adam Elliott who were a little bit worried. He picked up a bit of an injury. Maybe if you plan on playing Tuppeny and you've got Elliott as well, you can sit him and play Tuppeny. And if it's a late out, you could just go to Elliott, something like that. But you'd play all your Raiders if you did own any of them. But if you did, you're silly. Just own Tuppeny, and that's all you needed.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's it. All right, guys, that pretty much wraps everything up besides our last little final bit. So before we go around and talk about trade talk, does anyone actually have trades left?
Not me, mate.
I got one trade.
Are you going to hold it this week?
I'm tempted to hold it. The Taylor May knew I was feeling pretty confident playing To'o on the left, and now with May back, I don't feel overly confident on To'o and May. My trade would probably, I wasn't interested in Hunt. I was tempted to move my Cleary onto a Sam Walker or a Mitchie Moses if he got up as well for this game. I hear that he's not a guarantee of coming in. Still, he says he's a day-to-day prospect, but I could pull. The thing is, because it's Cleary, that's the Thursday game. So if I'm going to do it, I've got to do it pre-lockout in the first game, do the Cleary to Sam Walker. I think if you're going to do that Cleary trade, you might as well take advantage of that Roosters matchup this week and you just do it. Then I can, sit To'o and May and I play Sam Walker, and I think could be a good chance for a big one this week. So I've got to think about that between now and because I could be then in a final, and if we get a mass resting, I've only got one trade to do anything about it anyway. But Imagine if it was a Munster, or something like that got rested in the last round.
Yeah.
You'd be spewing. So I'm leaning towards just holding and trusting my squad, and keeping that last one for the final next week to at least pull one trump card if I can. I don't think there's going to be mass restings, and obviously finals in head-to-heads are going to be in round 24 this year. So, I could trade, but I'm leaning towards not. And if it was, it'd be Sam Walker, I think, for me.
Yeah. Well, with me, I'm out of my head-to-head, so I don't really care too much. But I'm thinking, I'm looking at going because I'm actually sick of DCE right now. He's starting to drive me insane. But I'm actually tempted to go DCE to Sam Walker and go Barnett to Sawali as my last two trades for the week, just to have that for the run home. I have, I think, 2 nuffs in total in my side, so I've got 23 active players. So I'm pretty confident there. I can hold that home for the rest of the year.
Nice.
So. All right, we'll move on to vice captain and captain. So we'll start with Glenn. VC choice this week, mate.
Yeah, so my VCs are tossed at the moment between Dylan Brown or Hines.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the captain's pretty generic this week. It'll be Tedesco for me, but I would imagine there'd be a lot of people, Manu, Tedesco, either one of those, you couldn't go far wrong against the Tigers.
Yeah, I like it. Adrian?
Yeah, I like 3 players as a VC. I like Drinkwater against the New Zealand Warriors there. I really like Munster, as if he's playing fullback. If he plays fullback, he could well be my VC. And I like Hines. So I'm going to decide between, they're all ceiling players. I think, if they go on with the second half, the Cronulla Sharks, Nico could be on for a big score. So I'm going to think about those 3. I think they're good matchups, and I think that those players all have a ceiling in them. But my captain will probably be a Teddy or a Manu. I guess I'll look at my head-to-head and see how it's going and fox with my opposition, and it'll depend. I think if I'm ahead and I'm looking like winning, I'll go with the crowd, who I think is going to be Tedesco, and they can throw the Hail Mary, which is probably Manu, is probably the one that's going to be less captained, I think.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm leaning.
I like it. Well, I'm looking at Dylan Brown VC this week. I like that little option there. And if I do make the trade that I was going to make, I'm actually going to go Hail Mary, and because I got no worries about my head-to-head, so I can just do whatever I need to do, and go Sam Walker as captain. He has that big ceiling there, so he could get like a nice 150 for me. We've seen it happen in the past. So, I think I'm liking that idea. So I've got Teddy there. I'll have Sawali as well, but I'm thinking about going something a bit different. Nothing to lose. I might as well have some fun with it. So
yeah. I mean, if you get a captain big score and it's like 1% or 0.5, you're just like, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, all right. Well, we'll go into the last little section here, and that's bold predictions. So I'll start with Glenn. What do you got for bold predictions this week, mate?
So I'm going to go a bit out there and away from what I was looking at first. So I'm going to go Lane, 90 plus. I'm going to go Sawali to score a double at 110 plus, and Manu 100 plus.
100 plus, yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
100 plus.
And I've actually got that in a multi.
All right.
Not that. I've got Sawali and Manu in a multi.
Yeah, fair enough. Awesome.
And
on the spot, Ados, anything on there, mate?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Latrell. Doesn't care that it's the Penrith Panthers. He's going to ton up this week, even if he doesn't kick goals, which he's got a groin. So I would say that to people on a VC, maybe not. It's a hard opposition and he may not kick goals, but I still think he's going to ton up. I want to say Drinkwater has an absolute monster and goes 125 plus.
Yeah.
I think Hines is going to have a field day and go 125 plus. And I'm going to say Manu gets at least double Teddy's score this week.
Oh, God.
Whoa.
3 of them I don't own, so I just hope that none of those things happen. And I just say on Latrell, just watch late for team list that if Taff moves into that bench, that there is a possibility that Latrell could play reduced minutes if they get out to a lead of some kind.
Yeah,
so that's the only thing I
definitely.
caution people on Latrell. But I actually agree with you on all the ones you just said. I just didn't want to say them because I don't own them, and I just.
Yeah, I mean, look, you play Latrell because you're crazy if you don't play an elite fullback. But I would probably steer clear of a VC, just because of those worries. There's goal kick. If he doesn't goal kick, that's 20 points probably off him, and he could get an early mark. Yeah, because Taff on the bench.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely. Alrighty, I'm going to go a little bit out there with mine. I'm going to try and stick with my potential trade in, and that's Walker to go 140 plus. Sam Walker, that is, not Cody. So 140 plus for Sam Walker, and bit unusual one this one. I'm going to go Dearden to ton up. I think he has a chance with the unspoken guy. That's he's at the start of the year. He was doing some really good things, and I think he can do it again. So
yeah, I don't mind that actually. I've fielded a few questions on Instagram. Do I like Dearden? And I was like, well, I mean, you can go Sam Walker, you go Moses, you could go with Dearden. He'll be the least brought in out of all of them, and it's a beautiful matchup. And often that happens. You get one of these matchups, and it's not Val, and it's not. I mean, Val might kick goals with plenty of points there, but it may not be a Drinkwater game. It may not be a Val game, but it could be a Dearden game.
Just an example of last week. It was when the Roosters played. It wasn't a Teddy game. It wasn't a Manu game. It was the Verrills game, which is an unusual one. No one would have picked that.
Verrills, mate. And front rowers scoring a bag of tries. Mate, what a weird. I was like Teddy had a very unforgettable 200th. It was rubbish. That's why I think he will bounce back this week. In this
whole team.
Yeah, because he's an absolute weapon.
Something on Dearden. So if you're in the top 30 and you're not a head-to-head player and you're actually an overall player, and I reckon Dearden would be a really good play because you really need to get that player that someone doesn't have. And I actually really like the Dearden shout, mate, for an overall player to try and gain some momentum up the top there. So
sweet. Awesome. All righty. So anything else to say, guys?
I just want to say one last thing. I don't think that I've seen in the last decade more exciting a top 8. I believe that any one of those top 8 could beat any one of the other sides in the top 8, and that makes for a fantastic final series. So bring it on. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's been a fun year where there's jostling for top 4, top 2, right down the bottom of the 8. I mean, you look at the Titans made it last year, and it's going to be much higher the win percentage this year, and the Raiders are probably going to miss out with probably multiple wins more. Yeah. So it's a bit a more competitive year this year. I really like the look of the teams that are in the 8 now. Obviously, as a Raiders fan, I could jump in, but I think we'd just be cannon fodder. Whereas all the 8 that are in there now, I mean, people are like the Eels. They've knocked off Penrith twice, and they might be scratchy and out of form, but on their day, they can cause an upset. And I guarantee you that those top teams, if you've got like Rabbitohs and Roosters down 6, 7, 8, you are shitting yourself to play them, I reckon. So it's going to be a ripping final series this year. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, it's a sad thing that we got no Pappenhausen, no Turbo. I mean, Turbo, they would have probably made it if they had Turbo this year. He'd be the only person that could have kept them galvanized, I reckon. Turbo. But it's those are the downsides. But I still think it'll be a ripping series, the finals.
Who do you think plays the grand final, Ado?
I think it'll be Penrith. I think they will get themselves there. And I'm going to say it'll be either Souths or Rabbitohs. They may find themselves in an elimination in week 1, where one of them goes through and one doesn't. So I like them. I don't think the Sharks quite have the recipe this year. I think that the Eels are not improved on last year, even though they've taken a few big scalps. Melbourne Storm are not quite the Melbourne Storm that were a premiership type team, in my opinion. Who else is in there?
The Broncos, I think, are just one.
Yeah, I don't even think the Broncos should be in the 8. I reckon.
The Cowboys.
Yeah,
the Cowboys. I really don't. I think the Cowboys are probably not peaking at Broncos and Cowboys peaked early, and that's why they were so up the top of the ladder. Now they're going down, whereas these gun final teams like the Rabbitohs and the Roosters are peaking at the right time. So I think they're the ones, and I don't mind the Roosters or the Rabbitohs to maybe give them a shake, the old Penrith Panthers this year. But that's my tip anyway.
Dan, what's yours, mate? Before we go,
Honestly, I was going to say the exact same thing. I was surprised that no one said Melbourne, but I agree with it. I think it's the two teams that are in form right now is the Roosters and the Rabbitohs, and I reckon they're and like you said, the Bronx. And I called it earlier that the Cowboys would start dying off, and I think that they are. And it was right before that Tigers game when they just won, when they didn't really win, but. I reckon the Cowboys are going to start dying off now. They're still a good team, much better than last year, which is great, but I reckon they're out of it. And I think it's going to be, I would not be surprised to see the Roosters versus the Panthers. That's probably what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah.
But with Latrell in there, anything could happen if he stays fit.
Yeah, and I mean, if say the Sharks, like if the Cowboys bomb the end of this year and the Sharks win and take a top 2 spot, that kind of changes the dynamic because that's a real advantage finishing top 2. So it'll be really interesting. There's so many variables, and we play SUPERCOACH, so we love the maths of it all. And there's a lot of scenarios. Imagine week 1 of the finals, an elimination final, Chooks v. Rabbitohs would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, that's it.
I mean, it'd suck because one of them would go out. But
I want to hear something interesting. So with Latrell in the side, they win 76% of the time. It's 70% of the time, and with him out, they win 58% of the time. But the actual stats are not much different, as in points scored, meters made. So it's interesting. But I think it's the psychological aspect of what Latrell brings to those bunnies.
Yeah, and I mean, even what he does to someone like Cody Walker,
absolutely,
like night and day, the difference between the two of them. The non-Latrell one and the Latrell one.
I think
it's ripping.
I think it's an attitude thing as well with them because, it's like walking up to a fist fight and you've got a gun in your back pocket. You don't need to use it, but you got it there if you need it. So that's what they got with Latrell. So I reckon they're a dangerous side, and I'm scared to play them this week. I reckon they're going to beat us, and I reckon they're going to give us a good touch up. I reckon it's going to be about, say, 24-12. I reckon.
Even without the guns, I mean, you've lost some pretty important players. Let's be honest. It'll still be a psychological. You're like, all right, we bumped you in the couple of games before finals. We'll see you again in the finals. It's just a little message like we got you easy there. We'll see you when you got your good players back.
Let's just hope no other players get injured between now and the finals. I mean, it's already bad enough with losing Pappenhausen and Turbo, and with Cleary and Luai out, I think that could cost them a little bit momentum. So their first game in the finals could even be a tough one for them. But I think with their Origin experience, they're a class act. So I can't wait.
I mean, if Melbourne's 4th on the ladder, they won't have an easy first game. There's one place forward, don't they? So, I mean, it is at home, but you're gonna feel it. It's gonna be a game that you walk away from going, oh, we had a game there. Especially if Munster stays at fullback, because he lifts them up again, doesn't he? And I think that was I can't believe the Tigers let Noifaluma go, but they weren't giving him a game. But I don't even know if he'll ever go back.
Well, he's under contract.
Perfect in that team.
Would you play Cooper Johns? This would be me. If it was me, I wouldn't have Meaney in the side. I'd have Cooper Johns in the halves with Hughes. I'd have Munster at fullback and Grant at 9. I just think that spine is a lot, to me, more stable than Meaney. I'm not a big fan of Meaney.
Yeah, I think
like him on the wing.
Yeah, I think Bellyache is a fan of him, and he's trying to do Nico 2.0. So, I think maybe it would have worked if there was no Hughes in there. You probably wouldn't risk him being in the halves with another inexperienced half. But with Hughes there, just get Hughes in and let Meaney can just be basic. He can be a basic 6, and let Munster do his thing at fullback because Hughes. He's no shrinking violet. He wants his hands on the ball and make him the dominant half. If they go out this week and, they look crap, maybe you need to go with a genuine half because Meaney isn't a 6. He's not really a 6.
No. I thought Hawkins looked really good in the Bunnies last week as well.
Yeah.
A lot of us spoke highly about Hawkins before the season start, and they brought Ilias in. So, I mean, that's handy that the Rabbitohs have that Taff and Hawkins as some depth there in those final positions.
Definitely. All righty, guys. Well, I'm looking forward to the finals mainly because SUPERCOACH will be over and I can stop crying about my team. So, Alrighty, guys, that wraps everything up for tonight. Tune in next week, guys, next Wednesday night, and we'll have another wrap up. Peace out, guys, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Ados, for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it.
No worries. My pleasure. Good to chat with you two, gentlemen, always on
Yeah,
Super
thank
Coach.
you, Lados.
Thanks, mate.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys.
I want to win. I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy.